are live.
Yay!
And someone is back.
I'm back after 2 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, starting to miss you there.
Yeah.
I was improvising a lot.
I was going to say, Jeremiah had a huge fight, and I just took it.
Yeah, that's right. I tried to replace you with a Genki GIF animation, but it didn't work. Yes, but yeah, so it's good. Yeah, good to see you. So how have things been going? So you've had a lot of you've been busy at work and infection. There's been cases at your job.
Work's been busy, then COVID on top of that, then all kinds of technical troubles and stuff like that. So it's just like, of course you need this. Well, yes, I can. Guess I'm not making the cast, right? It's
right.
It's always last minute.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's nice to be back.
Yeah, the first thing they take away is your lunchtime, so I'm sure that the cast is going to
I can kind of take, it's not my lunchtime. I can take lunch whenever I want, so it's always like, oh, could you do this for us now? And I'm like, oh, I was planning on having lunch.
Right,
sure.
Right. Yeah. Wow. So how are you doing otherwise? I know there's been some big news.
I'm preparing myself for this gut punch of whatever's coming up.
Well, the first thing that the world has had to deal with, and I'm actually just talking about it is a little bit. So there have been 2 character deaths on Critical Role. And a third character is rolling death saves, and we'll continue to in the next episode. So
because death saves are exciting. Yeah.
That's kept the internet abuzz. But think of all the fan art that is just going to be useless now.
You know what? For once, I think I have finally entered enough Critical Role related terms into my Twitter mute list because I knew nothing about this. As terminally online as I am, and I missed this.
Nice.
So that screen is finally working.
Nice. You have perfectly filtered.
Finally.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Matt and Abyss and K5 are all in the chat. Good to see you guys.
Hey, buddy.
Nice. Yeah, so there was a few people were making some YouTube videos and stuff about, should DMs kill characters? And so that brought up that topic, which I thought was
a valid topic, yeah.
And I think that's the danger, though, of, basing a fandom on a roleplay campaign is, hey, characters do die. And, you've got all these people that are, supporting what they're doing with art and whatever, probably songs and music and everything else, and to just have that character disappear. I'm sure there's some people like, wait, that doesn't happen on my favorite TV show, or my favorite fan fiction doesn't kill characters.
Does it though? Because okay, I've been watching some media. I've been watching I'm gonna get the name wrong. Yakimov 245, something like that. It's the continuation of Into the Night. Kind of the apocalyptic sci-fi thing where people have to outrun the sun on an airplane. This is kind of the counterpart, except it's different people, different casts, and we're on a submarine. Right? So it's only just started. It's pretty good. But people already are dying, right? And you're just like, okay, in media, people die.
No, that's a very new thing, though. Yeah, because episodic, I guess. Yeah, both episodic and serial. It's new for serial to kill main characters. That was a big shock for Game of Thrones to kill the.
That's a big shock when you kind of read the book.
Yeah,
but,
right.
Like my whole point is the media where that character is still alive still exists, right? So while you maybe can't make new fan art, right, or the situations that just are happening now because that character is not present, you can still make fan art about.
Yeah.
Right? The character did at one time exist, right? They still they're still in the conscious memory. Maybe that's the wrong term, but right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just not current,
right? But
you can still continue to make it, right?
I get that's a good sign too that they're not, listening to management or whatever. It's like, no, you can't kill any. They're not changing the game. They're not changing what they're doing to just fit this market that they've created. So I guess good. Yeah.
As much as I don't care about Critical Role, it's kind of like I'm sure there would have been no choice that they could have made that would have been satisfactory to everybody, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because on the one hand, you're playing the game. Combat's a part of it. Violence and death is part of it. And if the dice come up a certain way, well, your character died. And, you failed those 2 death saves or however many you need, right? You're dead, right? People are going to complain. You killed our character, right? Then if you just fudge it and don't, there's no lethality in this game, right? You should have failed. So there's nothing they could have done that would not have gotten an outcry. So.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. So of course I want to bring up Critter News, not on the cast, ahead of the cast. This is the premium area where we talk about Critical Role. So One D&D and Critical Role, that all happens for patrons only.
We only inflict that pain on the people who pay us.
Right. Oh man. Yeah, so good to see everybody in the chat.
Wow, nice.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah, do 5e players even know what death is? Matt said. Yeah, that's a good point. That's
Depending
true.
on their
The game,
DM, they might.
yeah, that's true. The game can be played more lethally, but yeah. But when we switched, we for a short period did the Tiamat setting thing for 5e, and I was surprised. By the time I was level 2, I was unkillable as a druid that changed into I transformed into this like lizard thing, and I could just throw all of my spell slots as heal myself. So I had like D8 healing constantly. So the DM was throwing all of these goons at me as we were trying to get away. I was like, I can keep just tanking this damage. I'm like, yeah, this is kind of heroic, unkillable.
But you think that was your role though? Compared to like some of the other people, right?
No, that's definitely
you kind of
because I was with I think like a rogue or something.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So that worked well, but I was like, wow, at level 2, I'm this tough. Like I have access to like it was like over 80 HP. If I dumped everything in, it was like depending on how I rolled, on the D8, it's like that's crazy. But I guess that's why the kids like it because there's no consequences. Your decisions don't matter. But yeah. So anything? I saw you started the Solar War. I saw some. Posts about that.
You lent it to me what feels like a fucking year ago, and I finally was like, I should probably read this. And I'm halfway through, and I'm like, yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's been a while since I read the original Horus Heresy, but I'm like, okay, it reminded me that like not the one thing, but like a major theme of 40K is scale.
Yes.
And I've kind of retrofitted that to excess, right? Like. You're talking like everything in that book is just huge.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes even how small something is, right? But I'm just like, if you don't buy into that, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's
like
true.
that is where you will fall down if you can't accept or don't believe that like ships can be kilometers long, that cargo holds can hold like tens of thousands of warriors, that like plasma blasts can be like measured in like millions of feet in diameter. You're just like, nah, this is ridiculous. Well, then everything else just does not work for you in that setting.
Oh, that's very true, and it's similar to like writing like eldritch horror or whatever. If you can't describe something where people are just like, oh my god, this is unimaginably horrible. Yeah, that scale, and that's what I liked is it really. I was surprised how capable they were of describing that ship-to-ship combat and how things, it was just like, wow, that is a huge, amazing scale. And did they introduce the guardsmen yet? Because they have like they have named guardsmen characters in the book that actually continue. They feel so fragile, and they continue through multiple volumes of the Siege of Terra is what we're talking about. And so you're just like, every time they come up, anytime there's a chapter about that, please don't kill them, because you've gotten so attached to them, and they've gone through like crazy stuff.
I think maybe this might be a longer discussion, but you probably, because Space Marines are not human, right? And I kind of want off on a whole separate thread about that. Could that be really interesting? But okay, the human guardsman, I think it's possible to lose that sense of scale unless you're constantly reminded of it through the perspective of a human character.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I think so.
Need that.
And I think they do a good job of that, because they really, throughout the series, they rely heavy on the remembrancers. So there's like actual humans that are being sent out to just record what's going on. Like, we can't forget what this is and what's happening. And so that keeps the scale fragile and small in some ways. And I really liked it. I mean, I'm really disappointed that they're going to do there's only one more book coming out, but they've divided it into 2.
Oh.
Yes. So they got to get that little bit of extra zing. But
look at it this way, like, you got that little bit extra more.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
because you're getting like a book and a half.
Right. Because I think it's Dan Abnett doing the last, and I think it's broken. And this is like the scene. Like, if you think of the painting of the Emperor and Sanguinius fallen and everything, this is going to be the finale on the ships, on the trader ship. So I guess that's got to be pressure. I can't imagine writing that. That's got to be insane pressure.
Oh, he's compensated appropriately.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. But it's an amazing. It reminds me like the. I think I talked about it before when I was first reading that series. It's one of those things that they're never going to be able to do again. Kind of like the Marvel movies, how they like built up to that Thanos thing, the Infinity War. They can't do this again, so they better do it well. And I think it's coming off pretty well. I think there's been only one bummer entry in that series. People
Oh,
were
really?
like
Okay.
complaining about it's a little too long and a little uninteresting. But otherwise, yeah, I've really enjoyed. Saturnine is my favorite so far, and I'm sure that's like 6 or so. But yeah, there's some really good stuff, and they're really doing some interesting stuff with the lore. And
Nice.
maybe some people aren't liking it, but yeah, I really enjoy kind of how I mean they're referencing myth and a lot of like very interesting kind of common human shared things that are happening there on this like crazy scale, on this like eternal scale. So anyhow.
Let's how you really feel about it.
Let's get started. All right. So thanks everyone for hanging out in the chat. And
If you had no idea what we're talking about, it's Warhammer 40K.
yeah. So the horse, the kind of Siege of Terra is the climax to the kind of almost death of the Emperor, installing him as a corpse on a throne. So yeah, it's really enjoyable, kind of the climax to their most successful, I think, series. Like the 50 books that they did. That's probably the best stuff that
I read the original trilogy of the Horus Heresy, and that's a decent book. I was surprised at how you could kind of, I might take it back, you can kind of humanize the Adeptus Astartes, the transhuman warriors, right? I'm like, oh, they all have different personalities despite being in the same chapter. Nice job with that one.
And the Primarchs too. I like in this Siege of Terra, they do a good job of the contrasting all the goals and personalities and kind of the corruption of turning them, half of them turning into demons. All right, so let's get started for this week. Wait for the scooter. Welcome to the weekly. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Chris.
And Chris is back.
Yay!
The return of what Tabletop's favorite odd couple.
Oh, all right. You know what? I like it. I like it.
And this week on the weekly, so Wizards of the Coast is suing NuTSR for very ugly reasons.
I can guess.
We'll get into that. An interesting article on Polygon about the indie future in the face of 5e and D&D's Walled Garden, and Vallejo Express Color paints, and then some new Kings of War.
Okay,
so
cool.
we'll do a little bit of not the best. So we've got As the Gygax turns and a little bit of not the best coming up. So let's start with that lawsuit, and we'll use our beautiful interstitial. Thank you again, Matt.
Oh, look at that.
So join us again for the next 30 minutes. Bring you As the Gygax turns, the continuing story of what the surviving Gygax family and their exploits. Yeah, I'm in the middle of Slaying the Dragon, the book about kind of the fall of TSR, and the LA years, the D&D mansion, or I guess the TSR mansion, the TSR like West Coast headquarters and stuff. So picture sand tables and cocaine and questionable women of the night everywhere. Like they referred to Ernie as a scene kid in the 80s, Los Angeles. So that explains a lot. That explains the burnout and the bad decision-making a lot. So let's discuss that.
Sure.
So what is happening? So Wizards of the Coast is, they've done a little bit of a filing against this, but they're filing pretty serious legal action to halt TSR 3 or new TSR's Star Frontiers reboot or revival, and based on its reprehensible content. So this is just getting uglier and uglier. So the legal action is taken against TSR LLC, which was formed not that long ago, and the forthcoming Star Frontiers New Genesis. So this is a preliminary injunction against TSR LLC, and so that would be Justin Lanassa, the Dungeon Hobby Museum, and all that good stuff. So that happened on September 8th, and it's meant to kind of halt use of anything, kind of like a legal cease and desist, and to prevent further potential damage to those trademarks, to those properties.
Oops. Yep.
And Star Frontiers is, of course, from 1982. And this is a revival of that. They're assuming that those copyrights have lapsed, or that they weren't covered by the sale to Wizards of the Coast. There's some way that they're trying to work around this. And there were leaked playtest materials.
Yep.
And so those playtest materials came out in July. People started to find them in July, and they were full of explicitly racist, bigoted, anti-trans, and alt-right content. So it's just all your worst thoughts about, old school role play,
Yep.
old school. It's just it's all there. So I don't know why they would be stupid enough, even as like a marketing stunt or whatever, to get some media attention to do this, because it's just confirming so many marginalized people's hatred of OSR as this old racist guy's pastime. And it's like, well, let's prove you right, and here it is in a PDF in digital form.
Yeah, I've seen them, or I've seen the bits people have shared, and maybe the only thing two possibilities in my mind. One, they don't see anything wrong with it.
Right.
They're just like, nope, this is the way things should be. Two, they kind of know what they're doing, but they're betting on the right, like, what? How does it go? Like, no, it's not no attention is bad attention, right? But no advertising is bad
publicity,
advertising. Right? Publicity, thank you,
right.
And that's what they're going for, which may or may not. Well, okay, the lawsuit has obviously bitten them in the ass, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, so it's so this injunction is to stop any further work or distribution on this Star Frontiers New Genesis, and especially the logos that they're using that aren't them. And this is to protect the IP from irreparable harm. So, the quote in the document is, general infringement can be remedied through further injunction relief and monetary damages, which Wizard will prove at trial. So they're saying, we're going after you. So get that new Indiegogo going.
Really.
TSR3, you're going to need some money. And another statement was that the new Genesis Star Frontiers we not given, released, or handed. Oh, yeah, that's right. That was the suspicious thing on this playtest material. Is it printed on it was it's not to be given to released or handed to anybody associated with Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro. So already they knew they were. It was shenanigans.
Yeah.
So it's the stuff that the content that was really ugly was descriptions of the character races mostly came up. Yeah, so they were talking about the Ulfar character races and a Negro sub-race, which is tall, thick-bodied, dark-skinned, even purple dark, brown-eyed race with large strength and average intelligence, but with a maximum intelligence of 9.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's like right away, and then contrast that to the Nordic Ulfar, which are described as tall, blonde, blue-eyed, with exceptional attributes and powers, with a minimum stat anywhere of 13.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's just
nothing to read into there at all.
And it's just specifically antagonizing. Who is this for? Like, is this like, oh, thank God, finally someone is. This is an anti-woke RPG.
Anti-woke RPG. Yeah, it's okay. It's kind of funny because I think around the same. Well, okay, no, this came out in July, right? So after that, what's the race? The Spelljammer book for WotC came out, and the Hadozi, right? Kind of like the flying monkey race. And you're just like, okay, I'm sure it was unintentional, but people have brought up great parallels between like minstrelly. In terms of the poses that you've chosen for these monkey people,
right?
As well as the enslaved and raised to sentience and bred and all that kind of stuff, and okay. I'm not saying those are equal, because NuTSR is blatantly they chose to do this.
Right.
WotC probably was unintentional, but still not really excusable. Just because if you had more people of color on your staff or checking it, that wouldn't have gotten through, right?
Yeah.
So,
I did a bit of a solo rant, so I looked a little crazy. I was just yelling at a wall, basically.
I should have put up a little.
Yeah, right. But I was really considering kind of both sides cowardly about that. Like, so Hasbro's for caving to every complaint that someone's going to have, and the other side saying, well, anything that is reminding me of something terrible in the world or terrible in history, we have to do something about. Well, do something about the actual terrible things in history now, instead of bullying a toy game, a toy company, a toy manufacturing company. So it's really like both sides are really disappointing in that, because we're going to be switching soon to like digital. Everything is going to be a digital release from WotC that's going to be constantly changing. Like you open it, and as you're reading it, the words are changing because they're trying to, satisfy multiple, in different parties in a lot of ways. And it's just, bullying of D&D is a little odd when there's stuff like this out there. Where there's people with actual bad intentions that will create, really, really horrible content.
Good point, but I think it's kind of like I'm going to liken it to like a debate, right? Where like, okay, the people who are the target audience for the new TSR Star Frontiers, not going to convince them, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
But like, WotC is like, okay, hey, you probably didn't realize this, but like, rather than shouting yourself blue at something that's just not going to change, focus on the stuff you can.
Right.
So,
Yeah. No, I mean, that's legitimate. And if you are, I mean, yeah, defending your hobby and what you want your hobby to be makes sense. But when it may necessarily not even be people playing the game, people that are just like looking for targets. But the Hazadi, that one depiction, the bard or whatever depiction was like, oh, come on. It's just like
really?
Yeah, that was pretty lame. But there's specific mentions in this new Star Frontiers of far right conspiracy theories, and explicitly calling BLM and Antifa radical things. It's like what they're like, and specifically talking about SJW and woke in the text of Star Frontiers.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just nonsense, and it just does nothing but damage. I mean, maybe it's going to get you a headline or a little bit of attention, but it's doing nothing.
Also get you a lawsuit.
Well, that's true. They're going to be sued into oblivion. So yeah, any goodwill, and maybe their intention is just like a scorched earth. Like, TSR, we're going to leave this to just be. People are going to see TSR and just think, oh, that super racist content that came out a bit ago. So yeah, really ridiculous. So another chapter in the legacy of Gygax. Yeah. So, and I'm getting more and more my thinking and ideas, like after reading this Slaying the Dragon, are changing a lot about what I want to like currently be doing in role play. Like, I'm starting to see
it's going to be not that.
Yeah. So what's going to like, instead of going back and kind of digging into old games and trying them out, or like trying to recreate some time that doesn't exist anymore, is really enjoying what the newer companies, like Modiphius and Free League, are doing. They have systems that are proprietary, that they're evolving, and they're trying to bring players in with IPs, with licensed IPs. And at first that was like kind of repellent, but I'm getting now what they're doing, and I'm getting now how that's moving things forward on a bigger kind of commercial scale. And we'll talk a little bit about Modiphius in this next little entry. So Polygon published, and this is one part of, I think, of a series by Chase Carter of the future of tabletop. And this was specifically about the walled gardens effect on things like the Dungeon Masters Guild and indie developers. Right. And they talked about, they interviewed several very influential and very got some interesting comments about kind of what's happening. So this all kind of goes back to a little bit of history on how we got to this place. So when TSR was purchased by Wizards, Ryan Dancy created the Open Gaming License, which is basically like legal copyright permissions for third-party publishers for the third edition of Dungeons and Dragons and the kind of the D20 system more basically, and so. What happened is like 3 years later, 3.5 came out, and basically that the third-party competition for creating content was obsolete because of that. And so then what happened is you had a bunch of indie designers kind of looking elsewhere, looking like to their own work. So you had like D. Vincent and Miggery Baker's Dogs in the Vineyard and Apocalypse World, John Harper's Lady Blackbird, Jason Morningstar and Stephen Segidi's Fiasco, and then Emily Caraboss's Romance Trilogy. So that was like the beginning of the indie scene with like new thinking and rules light, more story oriented, more narrative oriented. So it created a total like different movement. So that branch. So basically that the Open Gaming License and SDR kind of just like branched tabletop at that point. And as the article,
it was a much smaller branch.
It was a little tiny sprout offshoot.
Yeah.
And so now that they're talking about fifth edition, introducing its own digital marketplace, the thing that sorry, yeah, I'll bring this up. So they created the Dungeon Masters Guild, and the interesting thing. Sorry, to go back to our previous story, the thing that I forgot to bring up is. We got kind of bogged down in the politics a little bit. The interesting thing that came out in that legal paperwork is it does seem that Wizards of the Coast uses the posting of this older material in digital versions, selling digital versions on Drive-Thru RPG and Dungeon Masters Guild as claiming that IP, like
Right,
renewing those copyrights and claiming that IP, and they actually presented that as that's how we're saying that we're maintaining control, because we do provide these things that we have rights to in digital versions on these digital platforms.
And that hasn't lapsed because we're kind of
still, they're actively doing that. Right. Yeah. So sorry that came up in that, and I thought so that was a very interesting slide. Oh yes, we have a little insight now into what they're doing, and so specifically with the Dungeon Masters Guild, you have those things so there are old settings, and people can't write for those old settings until the official release comes out. So everyone was kind of waiting for Spelljammer to come out, and now all the third-party Dungeon Masters Guild Spelljammer stuff can come up because they've done the official release, and now everyone can fix it. Everyone can add things to it. So that's a very so things like Forgotten Realms, Beholders, Drits, Planet Chase, and Planescape, and other properties, they have to get that release, and then they're kind of open. The IP becomes available for people to use, and so that legacy of the SRDs did create that branching. So they were talking to people that have worked exclusively for the Dungeon Masters Guild and are kind of like waiting for the hammer to drop, or to wait for that to be completely obsolete when they move into this new One D&D platform. So it may just be completely gone at any time. It could just disappear. So a quote from one of the developers that's working on the DM's Guild is, a lot of people say, I'm developing this thing, I want it to go in the DM's Guild, but if it doesn't become one of those approved settings, you immediately have to file off the edges, give it a quick paint job, and just put it on Drive-Thru-RPG by itself, so you can't use the DM's Guild. And so, the official announcement of Spelljammer was a big deal for people. So they also talked to Chris Bissett, the creator of The Wretched.
Ooh, nice.
About the DM's Guild, and a quote was what happens to the stuff that people have written and published on it, referring to DM's Guild. What happens to the people whose careers depend on the DM's Guild? It's like being a developer whose apps are only available on the Apple Store. What happens tomorrow if Apple closes? You're fucked. So developing specifically for that one platform, even if it does give you legitimacy, visibility, some better position in the marketplace, is not great. So everyone is anticipating One D&D being the death knell for the DM's Guild. And they also talked to Chris Birch of Modifius, and they're trying to do a similar thing to what DM's Guild did by making their licenses available. So like we talked about, they had the 2D20 day, and they announced their SRD, a pair of licenses and an SRD for commercial and community works. So that's going to give people the ability to develop for their original IPs, as well as stuff that they own. So a quote from Chris Birch was, the World Builders Guild is the same thing as the Dungeon Masters Guild. So they are, if people want to go this more commercial route, and Modifius is actually going to hold seminars aimed at teaching game designers like skills to actually make this work effective. And their piece of the pie is only a 10% royalty on all of their all major sales, they said. So they'll also work with, you also have access to, by becoming part of this and working with world builders, you'll get rules consultation during development, marketing and promotional support post-launch. So they're really trying to make an effort to do a better job, I think, than DM's Guild. I think DM's Guild promises those same sorts of things as far as promoting your work, and it just isn't.
I don't know how it promotes stuff, but I know going through the DM's Guild, basically, you do that if you want access to the IP stuff from WotC. Like, there are images you will or will not be able to use, races or monster species you will or will not be able to use, place names you will or will not be able to use, unless you go to the DM's Guild. And I get that was the appeal. Right.
Yeah. So Birch also went on to say, so if you want to stand out and do something a bit different, and you happen to like our system, so 2D20, we're going to earn our keep in the cut that we take by really helping you become more successful. We hope to do so anyhow. And he does note that 2D20 is not the most popular system, and some people have trouble with it. But if you do like that system, because they know there's a lot of love-hate out there. But I was really surprised by the stance that they're taking, and I think we need like Free League and Modifius to be doing this to contrast against this walled garden that's being installed by Wizards of the Coast that's being orchestrated by former Microsoft execs that is not going to make anybody it might make a lot of money, but I don't think it's going to necessarily make anybody happy. Yeah, you'll own nothing and like it, basically. Just pay us a subscription. So Yeah, so very interesting. And I liked. And they also talked to Johan Nor, the artist that's worked on a lot of Swedish indie works, including the Cthulhu and
nice.
Morkborg and everything. So doing a lot of work, and he said the easiest way was to just open it up completely and say, they're talking about the license for Morkborg, the very open license. The game is yours, do whatever you want with it, as long it was not bigoted bullshit or NFTs. Go for it. Right. And it was almost like we invited people to play the game with us, co-own it. Making stuff together is like playing Morkborg together. There is no one controlling what comes out, and it becomes this horrible, beautiful amalgamation of what would never have been, what we have never made ourselves. If two people could make a neat game, imagine what 1,000 people could do. And he was quoted as saying once that first open license was released, there were over 1,000 related titles in that first year alone. So it really did flood a creative burst of I guess just the dark metal setting.
It's pretty dark.
Very appealing.
But, like the thing about an open license like that, and like even like Apocalypse World has something similar, I believe, and like not a lot, but I've noticed that indie games that have come out have something similar, right? I think Bright Hammer, that thing I put out, is based on a different game, right? Sledgehammer, and the only reason I was able to make Bright Hammer is because Sledgehammer like had a game jam where it said, "Hey, make something for this," right?
Nice. Yeah,
and there was that clause that said basically you can do pretty much whatever you want with it, as long as it's not bigoted bullshit, right? I'm paraphrasing here, and as long as you include this copyright text, right? So then I did the same thing with Bright Hammer, right? There's on the back, right? You can kind of make whatever you want for this as long as it's not bigoted bullshit, right? And even made like a little logo to go along with it. So I think not a lot, but indie designers are definitely like kind of following that.
Yeah.
Because why not, right? Kind of like that Morkborg quote, right? Like you give up control on what gets made, but
it goes so much further than it could ever. Yeah, that's true. So the article ends with a quote again from Bassett, kind of criticizing Modifius. We also have the Cortex Prime, so the Modifius and Cortex Prime models of licensing that are heavily inspired by the Dungeon Masters Guild. He's saying it's missing the point of community building. So they can't see licensed games, which lie at the heart of all of these newer walled gardens, creating the same loyalty and respect as Harper's Blades in the Dark, Melsonian's Council's Troika. Like it's not going to make people dedicated and passionately develop for it because there's that commercial element. And so obviously you're doing it because it's got a better chance of making money, and so that makes you a little more cynical, a little less passionate, I think, as a designer. So I thought that was an interesting observation.
No, it is. And I guess building off that, I don't have more details because it's only kind of recently happened. Fandom no longer owns Cortex.
Oh, really?
Like I saw someone cynically post like, the fandom experience in RPGs lasted about 3 years, right? And that was it.
Wow.
Like I think Cortex Prime and the Dragon Prince TTRPGs were bought by something called Direwolf.
Oh,
I think. I don't really know much more than that.
Oh, interesting.
Other than, fandom's not doing it anymore.
Interesting.
So
yeah. Well, that
I only
should
brought
help.
that up because I wonder what that will do to that roundly disparaged contract that Cortex Prime put out.
Well,
maybe we'll see a new one.
Yeah, as long as Direwolf isn't a software company, it probably will be better. It would be better than what Fandom was thinking. Oh, that's interesting. So I'm sure that'll come up in a future weekly.
Like I understand wanting to protect your IP, and like you can't trademark mechanics because anyone could have come up with it, right? But like wording and how things are phrased and how the things all fit together, right? Like, not protecting yourself means someone could just like put out that Cortex Prime handbook again and say, no, this is totally mine, right? So no, there has to be something that says, no, this part's still ours, but not to the point where it's like, we own anything you make, right? Like that's kind of bullshit. But
No, that's a good point. Well, something inspiring, and that will probably save you a little bit of money in the future.
Okay.
Vallejo has announced their Express Color paints. So this is them noticing the contrast paint, like one coat, kind of doing the job, and so the, kind of the speed painting trend. And they're releasing a new Express Color is the name of their series of contrast style paints, one coat solution. These paints were developed by Angel Heraldez and Juan Hidalgo, so two very famous Spanish miniatures painters. And in the Freak Wars convention, there was a demonstration. I guess Freak Wars was held in Madrid, and they did a live stream demonstration of just using those paints, how good the miniatures can look, and they look great. I mean,
nice.
yeah. And they're not going to be $10 a bottle, so that's good because it's Vallejo. They're not going to kill you with the prices. But I did read a comment that said North America is actually having trouble during these supply chain of getting Vallejo paints.
Oh,
so
wow. Okay.
hopefully we'll be lucky enough to still be able to have those stocked in the hobby shops here, and we'll get to try some.
Yeah, there's a
express
decent
paints.
rack of stuff down in the WotC Osaka.
Yeah. I'm really surprised we have that. So there's no retail street date or anything yet, but this is along the same lines of what Army Painter did. So they had a speed paint release, and Green Stuff World is also gearing up. They have a paint line.
I just saw, because I've subscribed to a newsletter, it's something they call it like dipping ink, I think, right? But it's basically the same thing. It's like, here's a pretty thick, but still somewhat translucent thing in the style of contrast paints where one coat, and they even did the thing like, here's our color range, and here's it on white, a light brown, and kind of like another color, so you could see the different color variations. Pretty much exactly what GW did.
Right.
So GW was first. They might no longer be the best.
Yeah. And this is good. And a lot of painters, not doing 100% contrast, but a lot of painters are saying it's a useful tool. There's a lot of uses for it that make things easy. And then a lot of people are saying you can just mix this yourself, but then you have to spend. Who knows? Ultimately, if you're going to be saving any money mixing it yourself, the quantities that you're going to end up making.
I'm gonna try it. Like the room where I keep all my turnip stuff has just been too ridiculously hot. Like 5 minutes in there, and you're about ready to pass out. I'm surprised my computer hasn't broken. As soon as things cool down. I've zenithal primed my regiment.
Oh, nice.
They're gonna get contrast painted.
Oh, excellent.
So.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, and let's try to get a hold of some of this new Vallejo paint as soon as we can. I'd really like to try that out. All right, and one more segment and we're kind of expanding. So previously, Not the Best really just involved things that weren't 5e. I think now Not the Best will also include things that are not Games Workshop.
Oh.
So if we're going to consider Games Workshop, kind of the best of wargaming, but here's a good second choice.
All right. Ooh.
Oh, wait, let's try it again. Try it again. Oh, come on.
Yeah,
come on.
Definitely not the best.
It's not the best technically at all.
There we go.
Not the
best. Okay, well, after that little technical glitch. So Mantic is releasing a massive book of their 3rd edition of Kings of War.
Okay.
Basically everything that they've come up with as far as, errata, new rules, new ways to play, new armies are all going to be included in this giant volume. And the way that they're going to fit this all in is they're going to take the lore out, and instead of, like those kind of discount rule books that they include in sets that don't have any of the lore, they're putting the lore for free on the website. Oh, so you're not going to lose out on that if you want to. I mean, and I'm not going to pretend that Mantic has the best lore. It's probably their weak point. They're kind of filling in the gaps that Warhammer doesn't do well. Like they had Space Dwarves, a decade ago, and a lot of things that they're doing well. And their rule systems are good because there are a lot of the former Games Workshop designers have done rule systems. So if you want to play a ranked fantasy battles game that has an active game system that's not fan-made, Kings of War is definitely a great option. So this big red book that's coming out is going to be an FAQ, errata, the new Clash of Kings updates, Army list, the core rulebook, Uncharted Empires, which lets you play any of the Warhammer Fantasy armies in this rule system, and then 2 new armies, the Halflings and the Riftforged Orcs.
Okay.
So, and they've also just recently released their Tomb Kings, which they are calling something dusty.
Sepulture Monarchs, I'm guessing?
Something. The Empire of Dust. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they're good looking. So they had, I guess, previously had them in metal, and like skeletons and bony things in metal are a little bit of a
nightmare. Which is why you kind of armor them up.
Right. So, and also some plastic ogres. So the ogres have been updated with plastic kits. And then on top of this, they're in development. An app is in development, so there'll be probably army list builder and rules reference and stuff in a wonderful app. And they can't do any worse than Games Workshop has done with apps. They've they have the worst apps that have replace things. They try to replace things like Battlescribe and third party fan made
They're
stuff.
kind of like the Microsoft of stuff. Like, hey, that's a cool fan made feature.
Right.
We're gonna buy it and make it shittier.
Right. And so they go after.
Oh, and you're gonna pay for it.
Yeah, right. You have to subscribe. They go after people that are like using their art assets to develop apps. Okay, which is legitimate. But then when they develop their own apps, they don't put any of the art assets in there. It's like that was the best part of the app, and you can't even. I guess they're worried about suing themselves. I don't know. But so take a look at Mantic. It was the first miniatures, like big sets, the big starter set that I ever purchased, and the quality of their miniatures has gotten a lot better. They definitely do the best skeletons and zombies out there. I mean, I really their plastic skeletons and zombies look amazing compared to the kind of wonky. I mean, I guess.
Oh, come on! Nothing's gonna beat the old skeleton for original Hero Quest with the little scythe, right? That's just like a solid,
that chunky thing.
Yeah.
So take a look at that, and there's a lot of all of their systems. They offer like free rule sets and things. So anything that you'd want to get into, and they did a special promotion, and I had a bunch of points.
Ooh, nice!
So I got the taster set, what they're calling it, of the Armada, their fantasy ship battle.
Oh, cool.
Set. So it's a imperial, like human empire and orc ship, and then all the rules. But the full rule book was included in this.
Oh,
so
cool.
the full rule book was the price of the set. So they're just like, if you want to have the, all the tokens and cards and everything for the set, just try this out. And so that was just available only in August, and it's taking forever to get here just because shipping takes forever.
So that's sailing ship?
Yes.
So
Sailing,
this is kind of like the old Man of War.
It's like, it's their version of Man of War, and they're using the Warlord Games Black Seas, I think, system. So it's a good solid naval combat system, but then they tweaked it for fantasy, adding magic and different sorts of things. So we'll have to give that a shot because it looks it looks really fun, and there's a lot of alternative fantasy ships out there for playing Man of War and stuff. So we'll have to see. But I wanted to give that a shot and support. Give Mantic some support. They're not they're
not the best.
Yeah, they're not the best, but they deserve a shot. They deserve some credit because they've got some good stuff. Yeah, they do produce some good stuff. All right, so that'll do it for this week.
Sweet.
So where can people find you?
On Twitter, as always. That's Hivemind, HYVEMYND, where I had a little thread about Solar War and what it means for the ultimate defenders of humanity to not be human themselves. Right? That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And spewing out a lot of pixel art games that then get abandoned after about a couple days, right? Anyway.
You need some like completion funds insurance or something.
I do.
Right?
I need to be the idea person. Here's my idea.
Do it. Go for
it. Go. Yeah. Anyway, how about you?
So I'm still doing Abuse Cartoons. You can find that Monday nights in North America, Tuesday if you're on this side of the world, Tuesday afternoon. And so I draw and write the single panel gag cartoon Domestic Abuse, which you can find on gocomics.com/domestic abuse, and Abuse Cartoons on all social media. The stream is on both Twitch and YouTube. And you can find what we're doing on Upturned Table at upturntable.com. And you can become a weakling, the most powerful of all patrons, at patreon.com/upturntable. And then Upturned Table on all social media for what we're doing. And I'm currently putting together online a John Carter of Mars, the 2D20. So giving Modiphius some love. And if you want to check out Chris from Idle Red Hands did an amazing character sheet, web app character sheet for that, which actually functions so much better than their form fillable PDF that Modiphius did. It's just there's not enough room. There's so much text for their feats and talent, their talents that it doesn't work. The PDF just doesn't work because you don't have enough control over stuff. So Chris did an amazing job of coding that. So and it saves it all locally. So you just make your little characters and you choose them from a list. It's beautiful. So keep an ear out for that because I think we'll try to record those sessions. And that's all that's coming up with us. So that's it for next week, or this week. We'll be back next week.
Later, mortals.
Bye.
We are in the future. That's it for next week.
We're doing these ahead of time. We're recording ahead of time. This next week is finished. All right. Well, good to see you. Yeah, it's good to be here. Okay, we'll be right back.
Well,
All right. So sorry about that. That little 30-second delay. Yeah, Matt, I fixed my settings. I'm no longer on 1.25 speed. Yeah, I guess a little too much iced coffee this morning. All right. Yeah, so good to see everybody in the chat and good to have Chris back. I think we'll have to maybe change the day for next week if we want to do this again because it's a holiday. Friday's a holiday and Chris is going away on Friday. So we'll have to see. Before, so this is now live stream only, patron only. And we were talking again about the Siege of Terra series, which is almost concluded. There's like a 2-part finale, and I think one more novella coming up as well. But yeah, those books are excellent. I don't think, I think the whole Horus Heresy series is kind of hit or miss. There's some really amazing books in there, and there's a couple of authors that usually knock it out of the park. But that series, yeah, really got me back into enjoying 30K, enjoying the Horus Heresy era, and they depict it really well. And like we were talking about, they jump in the scale of the war and everything really well, and a lot of very interesting subplots and stories. And it's all inevitably leading. So it's kind of a prequel because everybody knows how it ends. The events are known. And so this is just filling in the details. And I saw a few posts about how the latest one, the latest book, kind of changes the lore a bit in a surprising way. And some people were really happy about that. So we'll see. Yes, Abyss. There is a D&D museum in, I think it's the original offices of TSR became the Dungeon Museum something that's run by, I think Lanasa is running that. But yeah, that's Lake Geneva. Wisconsin. Tired, sad. Matt has now coined what TSR officially stands for now, and what they're forcing it to be called. Yeah, tired, sad, racist. Yeah, that content for Star Frontiers was just pathetic. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and Slaying the Dragon is good stuff. Very fun to hear that story, and so many of the characters, or so many of the players, and kind of where they came in and how they were not underutilized, underpaid, supported, but did amazing work. And there's a lot of situations like that. Like, they talk about that with like early MTV and stuff. There's a lot of people were working as free interns in things that they really believed in, and it was new and exciting, and they were just caught up in, I'm part of this thing. And companies like, management totally took advantage of that to really screw things over. Yeah, it's really, really screwed up. Oh, fandom sale. Oh, thanks, Matt. Yeah, so Matt posted a Reddit link to talk about the sale of fandom selling Cortex. Interesting. Alvaro said, unfortunately, if I ever decide to traverse the path to poverty that is mini wargaming, it has to have good lore. Yeah, that's the problem. I think Mantic positioned themselves too much as the alternative, the cheap alternative, and didn't build in good lore. A lot of the, I think the original setting for their fantasy game for Kings of War was like Mantica or something like. And they've had they've shaken my faith with a couple of their box games that they released. I backed the that dungeon thing. Where is it? I can say for Dungeon Saga. I backed their Dungeon Saga. The miniatures were garbage. I mean, they actually considered what they were doing too high a quality for a board game, so they knocked it down a notch. And the miniatures for Dungeon Saga were garbage. Materials were not great. Rules were fine, because it's just basically a tile crawling dungeon dungeon crawl knockoff. But keep on keeping on there, Mantic, and hopefully it really looked like when they killed Warhammer Fantasy: The Old World and started Age of Sigmar, it was like, okay, here's your Paizo moment, like step in and become the fantasy game, and that's when they released their that Unknown Kingdoms, whatever it was called, the rules for all of the Warhammer Fantasy armies were released. For Kings of War, and I was like, there you go, Clash of Kings, what's it called? Sorry, I totally lost the Uncharted Empires. So they released a volume of Uncharted Empires that had, everything that they haven't done, but that was that existed for Warhammer Fantasy. I was like, there you go, but it was just a half-assed, half measure. Like they really could have gone further to kind of like, if you're going to abandon any of this stuff, we're just going to pick it up and do it well. And they didn't. Like that was a big opportunity for them to kind of step in and say, you like classic dwarves, elves, and all this, not legally renamed nonsense. Well, here you go. And they just released that one volume, and that was kind of it. So that's too bad. But let me get back to the chat. What a mess. All right. But yeah, you gotta say, yeah. Abba said one of the good ones, STSR would say. Oh man. Oh yeah, and we mentioned Chris's from Idle Red Hands. Chris's character creator. I'll put a link to that for John Carter. It's completely responsive. The form fillable PDF does some similar stuff that Modifius released, but it just doesn't work very well, and you've got to use either a browser or Adobe Acrobat, which are all kind of funky things that don't always work very well. But this is just a web app, and it works really well. It's got all of the stuff that you need for building the characters and all the places to do their flaws and all their talents and everything. So really well done. Nice. So are we talking War of the Ring bad or Gloomhaven bad? Oh yeah, mostly the miniatures. Dungeon Saga. It's a very classic. Mantic's Dungeon Saga is very classic. Tile crawling, decent rules and everything, but the miniatures were I just I don't even know, like they're almost like this like early 2000s era board game miniatures, because some of them are, just like, here's the base. They've got interesting, like dungeon tile bases, and then some of the miniatures are like this. They're really really poor quality. I just think they didn't have good quality control, and this is back before the days of supply chain problems and everything. So they should have had some better supervision over how that was produced. And I had some trouble with my pledge and everything. It just didn't go very well. So I lost a bit of faith with Mantic, but it's too bad. I'm trying to think of an equivalent. I there isn't an equivalent to how bad these miniatures were. Worse than Gloomhaven, worse than worse than most really cheap board games that have been done. It just reminded me of stuff that happened very early on, like the maybe the miniatures for I'm trying to think. Yeah, just really bad. Like the idea of board game miniature was a little bit too strong in their head, and that they should be different somehow from their regular level of war game. Oh, Mage Knight bad. Yeah, so probably, I think that's probably the closest, like Mage Knight level, where just every weapon, every protrusion is like crazy warped, like they were pulled out of the molds too hot, and everything is like crazy, like swords are wrapping around, everything is just really bad. And they color coded the plastic, but they're using a lot of the same molds for some of the monsters and characters from Kings of War. It was some of the same models, but they were done in much cheaper material and just kind of color coded. Yes, Matt, every week we are getting a Blade Runner actual play. You definitely keep on me for that. Yeah, I definitely have to. I think after that, like 5 years of Idle Red Hands audio editing, I have a weird allergy to like long audio only editing sessions, and that's why we do this as a live stream and create the podcast out of that, because when we were just recording it locally, and Chris and I would do just like the 30 minutes, and then I would add a little bit to it. That was as much as I could handle anymore. So I've got a little PTSD from hardcore audio editing, and I want to, for the actual plays, do smooth everything out, take every bump out, and so take out all my ers and all that stuff. So it's a lot of work, but it'll sound really nice. The final product will be really nice. I still got a little bit of time. Blade Runner isn't out yet. The game. It's really sad. My speed is not great, even though I had a lot of experience doing it. It's still like 10 minutes of good clean audio still is about an hour for me, so editing 10 minutes, so an hour is about 6 hours of editing time for me to get it all nice and tweaked and everything balanced. So that's a little too slow, but I will get there, and it'll be beautiful, Matt. I promise you. The final product will be wonderful. I just have to get back into my heavy audio editing work style. I've been the only editing I've really done audio wise is the some of the lore videos, and that's just like cutting out retakes and stuff, so it's very easy. Some taking out some breaths and stuff, but when you're doing the multiple people talking and trying to cut the excess out, it's tricky, and multi-track too. Like if we talk over each other or whatever, I want to take out any of that, so we're only hearing like what we need to hear. But it's fun stuff. I really we may do that eventually, is just do our APs as live streams and just say this is going to be raw, and maybe just only offer to members and patrons, and just say this is going to be raw, but you can enjoy the game experience with us, and then maybe release something more polished, because I want to be able to post it on the freely forums or any groups, and not be like, this is really rough and not great. You don't want to hear. Matt says you don't want to hear me drinking a Coke and yelling at the cat. Yeah, that's right. It gets pretty blue. We game late into the night. Oh, that's a good point too, Abyss. Yeah, if we did it as a live stream, then we could have super chats and everything enabled. That's true, and also get some feedback from people that are watching. Yeah, I mean that might be a fun way to do it because then we could still cut it as a game only AP, but the rough product might be more enjoyable altogether. I'll take a vote with what we're doing with John Carter and see how we go. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we got to do that. We'll just like freeze, and then we only continue the session. After there is a super chat or a donation. Yeah, I've seen a lot of interesting systems come up for, especially for charity actual play sessions, where you can make a character do something. Like there's actually like levels. If you pledge $2, you can do this. $10, you like change a die roll or whatever. So yeah, it's a funny it's a funny thing. That would be fun to get the live stream thing going. The only problem with it is I would probably be running the live stream and running the game, so it'll be a bit distracting. I don't think I'll run the game as well, because that was a bit. If you watch any of the Alien RPG live stream, I was doing everything. The players were just playing, and I was like trying to make sure everything was working. So I was a bit distracted as a game master, as a game mother, as the Alien RPG does. So it's a bit rough. It'd be great to have a tech. It'd be great to have like a producer running everything, monitoring the chat, doing the donation, notifying us of donations and everything. But I think it could probably do some kind of setup online that might work. And we can kind of trial and error that kind of stuff. I'm not your internet plaything. I won't dance for your amusement. That's right. Yeah, right. Yeah, YouTube Shorts and TikTok. Yeah, as Abyss is saying, is getting massive. Yeah, that's really weird. I definitely, my brain is too old to enjoy a bunch of just like, whatever that is, just a streaming, a vertical stream of little quick video clips. Yeah, it starts to really annoy me on the creators that I like when they just do the YouTube Shorts. I'm like, oh, something I like, and they just have a little like 7-second thing. I'm like, Jesus, why did I? Yeah. I guess it's like it more connects to the parasocial relationship and just seeing kind of quick fun content from somebody that you like their content. But most of the people that I follow, they do longer form content, and so short little stuff is kind of unsatisfying. Oh, 30-second dungeon. Oh yeah, that would. I have to take a look at that. Yeah, most podcasts or long form clips, even live streams. Yeah, get to go nowhere. Yeah, the numbers of the shorts are. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that are taken from the long form. Yeah, that's true. Is just taking pieces might be a better thing. Yeah, because always like people that do long form podcasts always also have like a clips channel. Like if they have a YouTube channel, they also have just a clips channel, and someone just takes the best little pieces and does like little 10 to 12 minute pieces of that. Yeah, I tried to do a little bit of that with that best cuts for the live, and I think I was being a little too clickbaity about it. So yeah, and we we're not high energy enough, I think, to make interesting clips. Yeah, for Zoomer brains. Yeah, definitely, Abyss. It's Zoomer content for Zoomer brains. Just because I can't stand that, like seeing something interesting and then having no way to like get back to it or reconnect to it. It would really be a pain in the ass if you didn't pay attention to who posted it, to actually get back to content that you're like, oh, that was interesting, or that was funny. It's like, oh, now it's gone. It's just like swept down this digital river of nonsense. Matt says a lot of bigger actual plays actually lean into comedy, though. Right? Yeah. It feels forced. Yeah, that's true. And I think we talked about that before. I really don't like the actual plays where you've got like voice actors and people that you hear them kind of winding up. They know when it's like their spotlight time, and you hear that, here comes my voice, here comes my crazy character, and they kind of high energy jump into their little scenes or their little dialogue, and it's that feels very distracting. I like when it's people that you can just tell they're enjoying the game and they like they like to play the games, they like each other, and it just has a nice chemistry, even if it's not perfect or like wouldn't be entertaining as like a radio program or whatever. Yeah, that force stuff is really goofy when you're playing to the camera or playing to the audience. But I guess it works because there's some people that are having success with that. So who knows? We'll figure it out. We'll figure something out. But yeah, that might be a thing to discuss when we're doing stuff virtually. But then it's hard because you're a little more self-conscious, I think, having cameras and microphones on, not just to communicate with each other, but to know that there's people, listening to every, thing you make. It does make you a little self-conscious, so it may interrupt the kind of natural feeling of the game. I don't know. But yeah, we'll figure something out. And definitely doing 10 hours of role play and then having to cut it, having to edit the audio is not the best approach, because as you can see, I can't produce like I used to 10 years ago. God, it was 10 years ago, wasn't it? That's crazy. But we'll be doing some John Carter, and it's a really fun setting, and hopefully the system will work well to get us what we want to do with the adventure. And I think it's a good this starting adventure, the Phantoms. What is it? The Phantoms of Mars. Will I think lead us into stuff I can start like writing some more original stuff, but this can lead us into something. And here's something weird that we were talking about online with the John Carter books. They, instead of this, they did this. So if you're reading it in public, you're reading a kid's storybook. So I opened this on the train, and I expected to like look down and see like children sitting Indian style at my feet, or cross-legged at my feet, as if I'm trying to read to a kindergarten class. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The maps and stuff are cool in this format, and you can almost just stand these books up and use them as a GM screen. But it's an awkward orientation because then that means that everything inside is done 3 columns. So you've got like 6 columns across, and so PDF readers and some of the e-readers don't like this at all. They won't give you what you want as far as being able to see this. But the art is great for these books. The setting is great because you can play it real savage or real diplomatic. You can play real social or real violent, and it's super pulp, like super heroic. So there's not a lot of stuff is abstracted. So I'm curious to see because Matt. So playing with Matt and. I guess Matt and Will previously played the Conan 2D20 and weren't fans. So here's another test. So if I can successfully execute a 2D20 campaign, I hope I get like a little badge or something from Modiphius. I need some accolades from Modiphius. At least my renown might go up on my Modiphius web store account or something. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Push to talk is that's probably a good idea if we're gonna stream it. Yeah. Landscape was a weird choice for that, but I guess they wanted to make it different and kind of reinforce that it's pulp adventure story. So yeah, making it more of like a storybook. I don't know. It's strange, and the slipcase has an orientation where you can just turn it up so the books go in this way. So and then it's labeled on the spine. So that works fine, but we'll definitely have some pulpy fun with some 2D20, and I think 2D20 at least will work well with a generic dice roller on a VTT. Like we're not going to have like the specialized dice, but I think the system will work well enough that once we're in the swing of what the damage dice, the D6s mean, like 1 is 1 damage, 2 is 2 damage, 3 and 4 is nothing, 5 and 6 are 1 damage with a special effect. So once we kind of have that memorized, we'll be able to throw some dice and have some more instant response. I just want to make sure that the momentum and threat and kind of action, the game point economies don't get in the way, because even reading through the adventure, sometimes it does seem like the game master, or I guess the narrator, in John Carter it's called the narrator. The narrator can say, wait a minute guys, for 3 momentum I can make this happen. Like that's very immersion breaking. So I got to figure out a way to make that to have those options come up and not have it be like a little a little sales, like like I spread out a blanket and have some items for sale. This is available to you if you would like this character to do this. It's 2 momentum. I don't want that to interrupt the gameplay, so I got to find a good way to introduce those. Oh yeah. No, that's definitely the thing that was amazing. That's really, and that was so fun. Playing with you guys in Blade Runner, because Blade Runner is much more story first, a more simple rule system that puts the kind of struggle for humanity and morality in that Blade Runner world. It foregrounds that, and I think Will did a great job with that. And I think our mistake creating Will's character made it extra interesting. So I think we stumbled into a really great story. Yeah, I really want that to be out there. Although then I'm gonna have to show my failed, all my failed replicant rolls. So a super powerful, some fight that should have happened at the end ended up just somebody banging their head against the wall. No spoilers. I don't want to spoil anything, but I rolled really bad and didn't fudge anything. So my terrible rolls were like right out there. Yeah, no, that's true. That Blade Runner AP. Got to get that out, because I think that example will get people to want to play that game, because just like the kind of they weren't madness, the trauma mechanics in Alien, I think were an interesting part. The fear, the putting mechanical fear into the game. I think the humanity and kind of struggle for identity in Blade Runner is very cool. Really, really cool. Oh, good. It was scary. A replicant banging against the wall is a little terrifying. All right. Okay, I guess I'll call it here. But yeah, it was good to have Chris back, and I might try to do a day early or something to make it happen. Although that's John Carter Day. God damn. This is very difficult. So yeah, maybe a Wednesday or something. We'll try to do a little bit early so I can get Chris back here. Depending though, it sounds like Chris's schedule is not easy. Lots of surprises. Smog and giant buildings and just shitty people everywhere. Food stands that offer a variety of food poisoning. Yes, Abyss, exactly. That's what we created. That's the atmosphere that we created. Yeah, Astral worked really well too. It's too bad Astral died just like Roy Batty on the rooftop. Yeah, we saw the astral dove fly away as its soul went to the digital afterlife. Yeah. So all of those. Oh, that's right. That should have been the send off. Is the Roy Batty Tears in the Rain speech for Astral? All those maps and maps and tokens will be lost in time, like tears in the rain. Oh God. Well, farewell, Astral. That sucks. Owlbear Rodeo lets you share your local sound. So there's an option to let the players hear through the browser what I'm playing on my local PC. So we can. Abyss is tearing up. I can do some sound effects and stuff locally, but so we'll see how that works. Yeah, because I think I can put them through Owlbear so that they won't be through Discord. So I can record our clean audio on Discord, but you guys can hear, music beds and sound effects and stuff. So that might work. Yes. Yeah. Our audio is all via Discord, and we record it with that little bear thing, whatever his name is, Keith or Steven, whatever that bear's name is. And so that might work out well if our audio is just through Discord, but then I can play music through that's only in my headphones and through the web browser. That might be cool. We'll get this all figured out. But a very fun Blade Runner campaign. So let's make John Carter. Yeah, hopefully John Carter will be that interesting as well. All right. So good. Oh, fucking Craig. That's right. Craig is listening. Craig, now recording. That guy. And Craig like puts all that audio right on Chinese servers. It goes first to the CIA and then it goes to China. Craig is a spook, is a ghost. All right. So we'll do this again next week, and we'll talk about how we'll do the actual play. I don't think Chris is going to be available. I don't think even during the week. It doesn't sound like the time is going to work for other Chris, for Idle Red Hands Chris, to join us for John Carter. So yeah, that's too bad. So we'll see. Craig is listening. Craig. All right. So everybody take care, and we'll do this again next week. And take a look at the links. If you enjoyed any of that stuff from the Polygon article, I think that series is pretty well done. They talked to a lot of people. I guess the writer of that got to interview a lot of people. So it's a really good perspective on what the future of tabletop and what Wizards of the Coast is going to manage to screw up with it. So everybody take care, and see you again next time. Goodbye.